Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys about Rasputin. His full name is Grigory Rasputin, but you guys probably have heard of him under the name Rasputin. He was born January 10th, 1869 in Siberia. And at the time of Rasputin's birth in Siberia, it was pretty much like a place where they sent religious exiles and pretty much prisoners that they just wanted to get rid of. So it wasn't a really good place to be. So when he was a child, he turned heads like all throughout his town because he would always talk about divine forces, and he could heal horses just by touching them. At the age of 30, he married and had 3 children, one of which he did not claim. And although he was 30, he was still kind of crazy, and he stole people's horses, and he was known as a town thief. So he left his hometown and went to a monastery where he pretty much wanted to lay low for a couple months. He spent 3 months there, and while he was there, he had a vision of the Virgin Mary, and that was when he decided to turn his life around and become a holy man. When he returned, his idol was a man named Makari. I tried looking him up, but I couldn't find any information. He had previously been a fool for a czar. It's pretty much like a holy man who advises the czar on all of his political voyages, I guess. So yeah, for years after that, he would go on trips that would last months at a time, where he would just walk through the forests of Russia, and he would not eat, change clothes, or touch his body with his own hands. And when he returned, the whole town noticed some changes in him, and they thought that he met up with a religious group called the Trineca, and they were pretty much a underground religious movement, and they're pretty much called a anti-church. They were not legal. People were looking for them. They met in crypts, and they believed in sinning to drive out sin. So what they would do was they would go into these crypts and they would dance and sing and just run around in circles, and they would get on they called it a natural beer pretty much, and it was like a natural high pretty much, and they would sing, dance, and dance in a circle when eventually they would fall to the floor and just lay there, and then they would participate in the orgy. They began a chapel. Oh, when he came back to his hometown, he began a chapel in his basement, and it was said that he would have sex with his congregation, and that was why they thought he met up with the Tuesday, because they believed in sinning to drive out sin, and he kind of got that belief after that. Eventually, he had another vision of the Virgin Mary, and she told him to go to St. Petersburg to see the Tsar. At that time, he was 34 years old, and when he was on his way west to where the Tsar lived, there's word spreading that there was a crazy-eyed man heading that way and to look out for him. In St. Petersburg, he met Bishop Theophan, who introduced him to Elido, I believe his name was. Elidor, who was a famous monk, and he was really stunned by his appearance because they said he smelled like a goat. He didn't bathe. He was pretty much a wild, crazy man. And but after speaking with Rasputin, he declared him a true holy man, and as a result, he became known as the saint around town. And that was how he got into high society. People would say that they were electrified and also fearful when he walked into a room. They were just stunned by his appearance, the way he acted, and and his smell as well. All this time while Rasputin is becoming more important, the Queen Alexandra, who was the wife of the Tsar, she wanted to provide air for Russia, but she was having trouble. Her and the Tsar had already had 5 children, and she received help. She really believed in picking up like scavengers who call themselves holy men. So she got help from a man named Philip, That's how they said it. And she eventually gave birth to her son, Alexei, and he turned out to be a hemophiliac. Felipe left her, and he told her another holy man would come to replace him. So back to Rasputin. While he became great in the new high society, he was a holy man for two twin princesses known as the Crows, because they were just like tall and dark. They had long black hair, and they just called them the Crows. Um, they introduced Rasputin to the royal family, and shortly after his introduction to them, Alexei fell ill because I believe he fell down a flight of stairs, and since he was a hemophiliac, he just laid there bleeding. So he had been bleeding for a couple of days when Rasputin heard of his condition, and he asked the royal family if he could pray over their son. So they were kind of stunned because they were like, wow, he's really confident. He's just asking, can I pray over your son? So they allowed him to do so, and the next day he was healed. They said that Rasputin, they weren't sure how he did it, but they said he pretty much became lost in himself. He just let everything go and prayed over him. Since he saved their son's life, he became really close with the Tsar and his wife, and met with them on a weekly basis. And some said that he would call them Ma and Pa, and Ma and Pa told the rest of their children to call him our friend. So after that, of course, he was able to take care of himself a little bit better, and he started to live a life of luxury. He got an apartment near the Tsar so he could be close to them and visit them on their weekly appointments. And as I said before, he believed in sinning to drive out sin. So there was word that he would defile women, touching them with sin so that they could repent in bathhouses. Yeah, so after a while, he met with the royal family and everything, and he would advise the Queen Alexandria, because the Tsar, he left for World War I, so he would advise Queen Alexandria on all the political things going on in Russia. And eventually they started to accuse Rasputin of using the devil in his healings, and so he had a little trouble with Eliodor, who was the guy who introduced him to the high society. And so he tried to kill him a couple times, and eventually a man who was related to the Tsar led him into a basement and pretty much to wine and dine. So he gave him cake and wine, and the cake actually had, what was it? It was cyanide in it, and it would have been able to kill like any normal person, but he just kept eating the cake and eating it, and he wouldn't die. So the man, his name was Felix, and he started to panic. So he went upstairs to the chef who made the cake, and he just fainted. So Felix went and got a gun, a revolver, and shot Rasputin multiple times. And Rasputin, he just wouldn't die, so he got up and threw Felix off of him, and he ran up the stairs. When Felix woke up or whatever he was doing, he noticed he was gone and that he went up a flight of stairs. So he followed him outside, and he shot him a couple more times, and him and another man threw Rasputin's body into a river of ice. It was cold, so it was ice, and they stuck him into a hole in the ice. His frozen body showed up a couple days later, and a doctor said that he found water in his lungs, suggesting that he was still alive when he was thrown into the river. They buried him, but a couple days later, because everybody was afraid that he was the devil, they burned his body, and that's the story of Rasputin.
Thank you.